keep this young upstart down. And if Oliver Stone ever did a remake of The Fountain, I'm guessing he would do it like Tucker in the field of architecture. If you ever saw Tucker, as an innovative, entrepreneurial automobile designer suppressed by the big three and their political power. I'm guessing that would be his take on The Fountainhead. Well, in a certain way, the Dean's view is similar. Roark's like this wild-eyed rebel who rejects all rules, just going to take a few hits of acid, whatever occurs to him, that's how he's going to design. And so he misses the profound points that Roark makes in this the scene we just read regarding what his rules of design are. We don't want to make the same error that the Dean makes, so let's analyze what Roark says his rules of design are, because that's going to lead us right to the theme of the book. Notice Roark says there are three rules: the material, the site, the purpose of the building, determine its shape, its structure, its form. Let's take them one at a time. The material, that's the stuff that the building is made out of. It's the what of the building. The site, of course, is the where, and the purpose is the why. But the material is the what. It might seem obvious, but Roark's making a profound point. Namely, that back in the day, human technology had advanced to the point only that they were able to knew how to build with wood, which itself was an enormous advance from being and living in caves. I imagine it got kind of drafty in those caves in January. Anyhow, they were definitely hard to heat. But wood, by our standards, of course, is primitive. The same way in the future, our ability to design only with wood and steel and concrete and glass is going to seem primitive to people in the future. But Roark's point is, with wood, you can build certain kinds of structures. It's suitable to, for instance, two-story frame houses. But would you try to build the Chrysler building out of wood? Or the World Trade Center? Or the Verrazano Bridge? No. Wood does not have the molecular structure. It doesn't have the nature to enable itself to withstand the stresses of building skyscrapers or suspension bridges. But with steel and concrete, you could build skyscrapers. With steel and concrete, you could build suspension bridges. Whole new designs are made possible by the advancing technology. And what Roark is asking the Dean is it logical? Does it make sense to limit your designs to the type of stuff that was available only, to the type of materials that were available only in the past? Why copy the designs of the past that were limited by the nature of the materials available to design? So his point is, when the technology advances to the point that you have whole new materials with which to build, it's the architect's professional responsibility to see the new forms made possible by the advance in technology. Henry Cameron, literally on his deathbed, is urging Roark, watch the light metals industry, Howard. Watch the plastics industry, Howard. You'll have to show the fools what possibilities the human brain, has conceived for them. This is the architect's job. Be current on the technology. Be current on what's available now, and then see the new forms made possible. Don't limit your buildings to forms appropriate to the materials that were available in the past, when you have only the materials available in the past, when you now have new materials. That's rule number one. Rule number two, the site, or the where. Where's the building going up? Now, there's an aesthetic element here. Notice that when Keating's in the library copying older designs, Roark's studying the site. And notice that Roark's buildings seem to flow logically out of their environs. They kind of complete the natural surroundings. So there's an aesthetic element here, but also there's an important practical element that the nature of the site has a profound role to play in how the building's designed. For example, one of my students told me years ago that in San Francisco, which is on the San Andreas Fault, and where there'll be earthquakes, when they build skyscrapers now, they build the foundations. I didn't hunt this down to see if it's true or not, but it should be true. It makes sense. They build the foundations on these gigantic rollers, so that when the platelets of the earth shift, the building will shift with it, enabling it to cushion the blow and giving it to the building and giving the building the best possible chance of surviving an earthquake. Now, Roark would admire that. That's knowing the site. If you're going to build on swampland, I'm sorry, there are no swamps anymore, wetlands. I got to be politically correct here. If we're going to build on wetlands, swamps, all right. If we're going to build on swamps, you need to drive your piles, down through the swamp to the bedrock below, so as to ensure that the houses don't sink down into the ooze, as I've seen in the neighborhood in Mill Basin in Brooklyn, near where I grew up. The houses, they didn't build their piles deep enough, and the houses just kind of sink year by year, inexorably down into the marshlands. You need to know the site. The site dictates significantly what kind of building will be built. That's rule number 2, the where. And then rule number 3, the building's purpose or its function, which is the why. Why is this building going up? What's its function? Are we building an airline terminal? Are we building an office building? Is it a private home? Is it a factory? Is it a school? Is it a hospital? And then every aspect of the building must be designed to maximize the building's basic purpose. Everything, down to every detail. The placement of the last light fixture, doorknob, lavatory, everything has to flow logically from the building's capacity to maximize its purpose. So, as a simple example, if we're going to build a hospital, we want to conserve space, right? So we'll make our hallways and corridors as narrow as we possibly can to conserve space for the patient's rooms. Well, obviously not. You're dealing with life and death emergencies in many cases. Can literally mean a matter of life and death to get somebody into surgery. So you need your corridors as wide as possible so the gurneys don't get stuck in heavy traffic. Every detail of a building has to be based logically on a flow directly from the building's need. Its ability to maximize or optimize its function, its purpose. And of course, the modernist architects, their famous line on this is that form follows function. The form or structure of the building must flow from what purpose or function it's designed to serve. Now, these of course, are Roark's rules of design. So notice something. Whereas the dean is looking to other people for the fundamental source, Roark is arguing that architecture is a creative discipline. The architect needs originality. For example, he needs to be able to recognize the new possibilities made possible by the advances in technology, which have given him new materials to work with. It's an art. It's a creative discipline. It's a discipline in which originality is critical, and consequently, Roark's arguing that the rules of design are not dependent on the beliefs or principles of the past. Rather, they're a function of the independent reasoning mind, that the architect has to be a thinker, not a follower of the past, that he has to identify these new possibilities, these new truths, and the only way he can do that is by thinking, is by the application of his own independent mind. Now this, of course, as I mentioned before, here's the theme of the book. This contrast between, or this contrast of, and conflict between the independent cognitive functioning and dependent cognitive functioning. What the Fountainhead is about is how you and I, each one of us as an individual member of the human race, how you or I choose to use our mind. Or, to put it more fundamentally, do we choose to use it? Or do we choose to abandon it and let other people dictate the terms, the terms of our life. Now observe here, Ayn Rand's statement of the theme, I think, is just brilliant. And that is, does anybody remember what she says the theme of the Fountainhead is? Does anybody remember her formulation? Robert, go ahead. Belt it out.
Individual versus a collective, not politics, but man's soul.
Exactly. Good. Yeah. The Ayn Rand's statement of the theme is individualism versus collectivism, not in politics, but in men's souls. Oh, well, you can't do any better. You can't do any better than that at formulating what this book is about. Individualism versus collectivism, not in politics, but in men's souls. Now, you think about that. What does that mean? Because individualism and collectivism literally are political terms. What does that mean to apply them to the soul or the mind or one's judgment or one's cognition? We only have a couple of minutes before we take a break, so let me just answer that question. An individualist of the soul, of course, the Roark type, in real life, the Socrates, the Aristotles, the Galileos, the Newtons, to use geniuses as examples. But the individualist of the soul is the independent thinker. You know the phrase, think for yourself? Does anyone notice what a redundancy that is? You could just drop the for yourself part and just urge somebody, think! Because if you do, you're necessarily going to do it for yourself and by yourself. You're necessarily thinking with your own mind. You can't think with somebody else's. So this is what it means to be an individualist of the soul, is an independent thinker. Or we could just drop the term independent. Hold on, we're running out of time. We could just drop the term independent and just use the term thinker. Whereas a collectivist of the soul is somebody who abandons his mind, refuses to put in the hard work of thinking, or refuses to stand up to society if his thinking clashes with society, and lets, in one form or another, lets the beliefs and the values and the standards of other people dominate his life, whether it's the family or his teachers and professors or his clergy or the society as a whole. This is what the Fountainhead is all about. So what we'll do, I want to take a break. We can't go on for 3 straight hours. So we'll take like a 10 or 15-minute break. And when we come back from this, I want to pursue the question at a deeper level, and that is, we know that the dependent thinker, or I shouldn't even use the term, the dependent mentality, like the Dean or Keating, acquire their truths from other people. We know the independent person, like Roark, identifies truth firsthand by use of his own mind. But I also want to contrast these two at a deeper level as to where the first-hand thinker, where the independent thinker looks to gain truth, and I think it's implicit in Roark's 3 rules of design. All right, let's take 10